She felt the weight of a history no one had asked her to carry. And still, Jen Pawol walked out onto that field like it was exactly where she belonged. The first thing you should know, this was not a publicity stunt. It was not a token moment. It was 48 years of grind, of rainy minor league doubleheaders, of late nights studying rule books and replay angles, of learning to stand calm in the storm of a manager's tirade. Jen Pawol earned every step of that walk onto Truist Park dirt, and the applause that met her was less a surprise than a long overdue recognition. Imagine taking the field and hearing people shout your name, and then realizing those voices are scattered across a stadium you used to dream of playing in, not officiating in. Pawol looked up, searching the lower tiers out of habit, then laughed because her family was way up there. That reaction, the human, almost stunned smile, is the honest heart of what happened Saturday. This was not just a first base call, it was a lifelong arc, arriving at the perfect, overwhelming, tiny in the moment validation. Her debut came in a split doubleheader between the Braves and Marlins. She worked first base in Game 1 and third base in Game 2, then was set to call balls and strikes behind the plate in the series finale. Her presence on the crew was seamless, and that's the point. The best officials are invisible until something critical happens. And when something did happen in the third inning, a bang-bang play at the plate, Pawol made the call confidently. Braves manager Brian Snitker watched and said it plainly. She did a good job. You can tell she knows what she does. That affirmation comes with context. Umpiring is a grind. Pawol started professional work in 2016 at the Gulf Coast League and moved through the minor league ranks on merit. She was assigned the AAA championship in 2023 and had already worked spring training games. Her path is textbook. Start small, learn hard, earn promotions. That trajectory is clear on the field. She didn't skate to the major leagues because of a headline. She arrived because she'd proven she belonged. And let's be blunt about the stakes. The first real test for any new umpire in the majors is the challenge, the moment when a manager looks at a call and has to decide whether to flip the board. Pawol's early test came with call at the plate. Sean Murphy tagged, Pawol signaled safe, and the manager let it stand. Those moments aren't glamorous. They're huge. They're also the ones that separate a nervous debut from a confident one. The images from the night will stick. The board focusing on Pawol between innings and the crowd rising in a warm ovation. Her pumping a fist on a double play call, lifting a knee with the conviction of someone who knows she's right. The cap she wore now destined for the Hall of Fame. All of those things have symbolic power, but the deeper story is the everyday labor behind them. The games in small parks where the crowd might number a few hundred, the road trips, the nights away from family, the invisible apprenticeship of every official who reaches the top. It's also worth noting what this moment means beyond one person. Pawol's arrival in Major League Baseball is a cultural milestone that sits beside similar breakthroughs in other sports. The NBA broke the gender barrier for officials 28 years ago. The NFL hired its first full-time female official a decade ago. Women refereed the Men's World Cup just 3 years back. The NHL hasn't yet crossed that line. Every sport is on its own timeline. Pawol's debut tells us baseball's timeline shifted this weekend, not overnight, but with the quiet momentum of cumulative change. Her own story bridges softball and baseball. A 3-time all-conference player at Hofstra, she umpired NCAA softball before transitioning full-time into professional umpiring. That background matters. Understanding the rhythm of a game as a player gives you empathy and instincts you can't get from rules books alone. She's lived the game's nuances from both sides, and that duality read in her work. Calm, precise, and authoritative. What's fascinating is how the veterans around her reacted. Chris Guccione, the crew chief who's worked World Series and All-Star games, spoke with childlike awe about the moment. He said it gave him chills. That reaction from a seasoned official says as much about Pawol as it does about the craft. The moment feels right to the people who know how hard the road is. When your colleagues recognize you, that often counts more than 1,000 headlines. We should also be honest about the culture change in front of us. For young women thinking about careers in baseball, whether as players, executives, coaches, or officials, Pawol's uniform is a new kind of proof. It says the game's highest spaces are open for work and built on competence. It provides a real, visible role model for the next generation who will now look at umpiring as a possible career, not just an anomaly to be admired from afar. And yet, the moment isn't a finish line. It's a checkpoint. Pawol will keep calling games, learning new pitchers, adjusting to more intense camera scrutiny, handling more managerial flare-ups, and refining an already impressive craft. The league will watch, broadcasters will analyze, and the fans will get used to the sight of a female umpire no longer as novelty, but as part of the regular narrative. That quiet normalization is the most powerful part of progress. Back on that night, when photographers lined the entry ramp and the dugout handlers offered handshakes, Pawol played like someone who had been here before. Because in the only way that matters, she had. She'd been here in spirit for years, in practices, in minor league pressure, in the many small corrections that shape a top official. The ovation, the Hall of Fame cap, the family in the upper deck, those were bright moments. But the core was simple and, honestly, entirely baseball. Another competent official did their job at the highest level, and the game moved on. So, what's the legacy? For fans, it's a memory of applause, the sound of a crowd acknowledging something rare and overdue. For the sport, it's a structural nudge forward, a visible change that will ripple through recruiting, hiring, and the culture of the clubhouse. For Jen Pawol, it's a milestone on a career that will now be measured by calls, judgment, and longevity, rather than symbolism alone. In a stadium full of cheering, she took that walk not to make a statement, but because it was where she was supposed to be. And sometimes that's the most revolutionary thing of all. Jen Pawol made history Saturday as the first woman to umpire a regular season Major League Baseball game, drawing cheers from fans, teammates, and players during a memorable debut at Truist Park. Pawol, 48, served at first base for the opening game of a split doubleheader between the Atlanta Braves and Miami Marlins. She was introduced to a warm ovation and said the experience was emotional. "It was amazing when we took the field," she said. "It seemed like quite a few people were clapping and calling my name. That was pretty intense and emotional." Her first major test came in the third inning when she ruled Braves catcher Sean Murphy safe on a bang-bang play. Marlins manager Clayton McCullough did not challenge the call. Pawol later worked third base in the nightcap and is scheduled to call balls and strikes behind the plate on Sunday, a milestone assignment that will put her at the center of every pitch. Braves manager Brian Snitker praised her performance. "She did a good job. You can tell she knows what she does." Crew chief Chris Guccione called the moment one of the proudest in his career and said Pawol's promotion should inspire girls and women across the sport. "This is a special moment," Guccione said. "It gives me chills thinking about the magnitude of this and how hard she's worked." A group of about 30 friends and family, including Pawol's father, watched from the stands. Pawol noted the difference between minor league games and a packed major league park. "When I looked up, they weren't in the lower tier, like in the minor leagues," she said. "When I looked up, it took me a while. Whoa, they're up there. I'll never forget that." Pawol's career path is a steady climb through the officiating ranks. She began in the Gulf Coast League in 2016 and has worked her way up through the minors. In 2023, she was assigned the AAA championship game, and she worked MLB spring training in 2024 and again this year. Before switching to baseball, Pawol was a three-time all-conference softball player at Hofstra and umpired NCAA softball from 2010 to 2016. She said she has dealt with manager confrontations before and doesn't expect any different now. More than dozens of times, she said, when asked about heated exchanges. "It doesn't go very well for him. The night is usually over for him. It's just part of the game." Pawol learned of her promotion during a Wednesday conference call with MLB's Director of Umpire Development, Rich Rieker, and Vice President of Umpire Operations, Matt McKendry. Her umpire cap from the game will be sent to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Her debut comes at a milestone moment for women in professional sports officiating. Nearly 3 decades after the NBA hired its first female official, a decade after the NFL's first full-time female official, and 3 years after women first officiated at the Men's World Cup. The NHL has yet to put a woman on the ice as an official. As Pawol said after the game, the dream actually came true today. I'm still living in it. I'm so grateful to my family and Major League Baseball for creating such an incredible work environment.